The Pokemon series with its over 20-year history has come a very long way, starting out on a monochromatic Game Boy screen, then moving up to the animated sprites on the DS, and then the 3D models on the 3DS. At long last, the Pokemon series has moved into something that longtime fans have waited years for, a full HD Pokemon adventure on a home console. Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Pokemon Let's Go Eevee are the first mainline Pokemon games for a home console. They are inspired and based off of the original Pokemon Yellow game, which released 20 years ago in 1998. There have been a handful of changes and many other things that have been added into these games, but does it all lead up to Pokemon Let's Go Back to Kanto or Pokemon Let's Go Wait Till Gen 8? The story or content of the games is the same old Kanto experience that longtime fans have experienced years ago, and I love how they decided to keep most of it the same. I say most as there are definitely a few changes that have been made to the game in terms of content. There are some characters that didn't appear in the originals, and there are some Easter eggs or throwbacks to other Pokemon games too. Since your character and the rival are new trainers, the game is a bit different. For example, I'm sure you didn't expect to have Blue welcoming you as soon as you defeated your very first gym. In my opinion, Kanto has really never been known for having a story. There really isn't any character development with characters like Lily in Pokemon Sun and Moon. Kanto is more just of a sequence of events throughout your adventure, and that's pretty much the same thing here. If you're a longtime fan that's played through the older Kanto games, you'll notice that even most of the dialogue that is said by the ordinary NPCs is still the same as the originals. It truly is the Kanto that you remember. The big downside about the content is with the post-game. Once you're finished with your adventure and become Pokemon League champion, there really isn't much left for you to do. Sure, you've got some gym leader rematches and a few special battles, but once you're finished with that, you're pretty much done. All you'll have left are the Master Trainer challenges, where you have to challenge a Master Trainer for every Pokemon in the Kanto region by training them up as best as you can. Now while this is something for you to do, it isn't much fun as it requires a lot of time and there isn't much of a value. If you don't want to do Master Trainers, then the last thing that's left for you to do is basically just completing the Pokédex, which is still not very hard. These games only featured the original 151 Kanto Pokemon, and so the Pokédex challenge really is nowhere near as difficult as it is with modern Pokemon games. Something else that isn't good with the gameplay is how the online communications work in these games. If you want to do something like a trade or battle with a friend, it's fairly easy, but with random people you essentially have to both type in a code composed of Pokemon and hope that you find someone else that typed the same code, so it's a pretty poor system. Now many people despise the lack of the Pokemon from the other generations, but I think that it was fine. The Kanto Pokemon are iconic and really the ones that the old school fans will remember, and it really seems like Game Freak is trying to hit the nostalgia nerves with Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Pokemon Let's Go Eevee. They also want to appeal to the fans that have played Pokemon Go so that they would try out Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee, and since Pokemon Go only started out with Gen 1 Pokemon, they would be the ones that people remember the most. I can understand the reasoning, but at the same time it would have been nice to have the other Pokemon. They could have done the Pokemon Fire Red and Leaf Green approach where you can only use the Kanto Pokemon for the main adventure, but then unlock the rest of the Pokemon after. Either way, Game Freak developed this game in a short amount of time just so that we'd have something to play until Generation 8, so I can see their reasoning. In terms of graphics, what can I say besides the game is absolutely gorgeous. Experiencing a Pokemon game on your TV in full 1080p at 60 FPS is just something truly special. No more of the pixelated Pokemon games on the DS or the 10 FPS of totem battles of Pokemon Sun and Moon. It's really amazing to see how far the graphical capability has evolved with Game Freak. One of the graphical changes that I was really satisfied with was how Game Freak decided to use bright, vibrant colors for everything throughout the game instead of the washed out colors that were being used with the Pokemon games on the 3DS. The only thing that falls under graphics that I do not like are the animations. They honestly feel like a step back from Pokemon Sun and Moon. Characters move in grids and do a 90-degree robotic turn, and it doesn't feel natural at all. Hopefully with the newer engine in the next games, this will get resolved. The gameplay is easily what has had the most changes within these games. By far the biggest change for the long-term Pokemon fans is the removal of wild Pokemon battles. In the past, where your Pokemon had to battle others in the wild and then be captured, in Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee, a wild encounter will take you immediately to a catching screen. It is like Pokemon Go where you need to throw a Pokeball at a circle closing in on the Pokemon at just the right time. It definitely isn't a change that I'm a big fan of, but it doesn't make the game unplayable for me. Besides that, there have actually been some really awesome gameplay changes that I'm a huge fan of. For one, they brought back Pokemon following you so that you can always have your favorite Pokemon by your side at all times. The small thing that I don't like about this is how for certain Pokemon, you are forced to ride them instead of having a Pokemon like Charizard just walk behind you. Speaking of riding Pokemon though, that is also something that's really good with the gameplay in these games. There are plenty of Pokemon that you can ride on the land, surf on the sea, and soar in the sky. They all have their own speeds and animations, so it's really fun to find out which one you'll like the most. My favorite gameplay change by far is how you can see the wild Pokemon in the overworld. You no longer have any wild encounters from the grass, but rather only have them from the wild Pokemon that you run into in the overworld, and I really love that. It really just makes the world feel alive to see Rattata scurrying around in the grass or seeing Pidgeys flapping by instead of just having patches of grass that we've been used to. The gameplay in these games is really centered around catching though. Even Pokemon get more experience from catching other Pokemon than from battles with other trainers' Pokemon. The only thing that I don't like with this though is the experience system. The thing with the experience is that there is no way to turn it off from going to your entire team, and if you want to catch every Pokemon you see, then you'll just become way over leveled just because of the experience that you get from catching. I was only in Mount Moon when I saw a wild Clefable. Of course I wanted to have it, so I caught it with an excellent throw. This resulted in my team getting 2,600 experience and all of my Pokemon grew 6 levels. My Charmander, Bulbasaur, and Nidoran all evolved after that one catch, and I really felt over leveled. It wasn't even my fault though because I just wanted to catch the Pokemon and there's no way to turn off the experience sharing, so that's really the only other problem that I have with the gameplay. With Game Freak, music is really never an issue, and the same thing applies to Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee. The music is amazing and sounds very good. All of the remix themes from the towns, the gym battle themes, and the other ones gives you that nostalgic Kanto feeling that you remember. It's very peaceful and relaxing, and it's very well done. The controls in these games are pretty good too. With a Pokemon game, you don't have to worry about complex controls, as it's just being able to move, select, and go back. Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee can be played in 3 different control styles, using a single Joy-Con, the left or right, playing in handheld mode, or the Pokeball Plus. The normal gameplay is fine for all of them, as just like I said, it's a Pokemon game, so all you need to do is move with the joystick, select with A, and back out with B. The only thing that is my issue with the controls is when using the motion controls. Most of my experience though has been alright. I would say that 70% of the time, if I point the Joy-Con, aim at the TV, and throw, it will register as a good throw. But for some reason, around 30% of the time, the ball would just fly all the way to the right or left after being thrown. I swear I'm moving the Joy-Con in the same way every single time, but there's just 30% of the time that the motion calibration is completely off. This can be especially frustrating if you're trying to catch something like a shiny Pokemon, or catching a Pokemon and you don't want it to run away. Having terrible throws from Pokeballs flying off the sides can result in the Pokemon running away, and that could be very devastating. All in all, Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee are great games on the Nintendo Switch. They still have the same Pokemon adventure style that we've been used to, but with a few changes. Many of them are for the better, like having wild Pokemon in the overworld and even being able to sort Pokemon on your team and your storage right from your bag. There are also some bad changes too, like not having an option to disable experience points that are given to your team and using motion controls to catch Pokemon, but it's still the same old school Pokemon adventure. If you are a Pokemon fan that likes Pokemon for being Pokemon, you will enjoy these games. If you like Pokemon for just being an adventure where you battle trainers, collect Pokemon items and gym badges, take down an evil team, then that's all still there and it's the same as always. If you only like Pokemon for the battling or the breeding or something else like that, you probably won't like these games. If you go into these games angry that it doesn't play like a traditional game, you aren't going to have fun. If you go into these games angry that it's a Kanto remake, you aren't going to have fun. If you just unwind, relax, play these games and appreciate them for what they are, you are going to have an amazing time and something awesome to play until the 8th generation of the series next year. And so there you go guys, that is my review for Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee. If you guys enjoyed this video, then please be sure to click that like button and also comment down below and let me know what you guys think of the games. Did you enjoy them? Did you not like them? What would you rate them? Definitely be sure to let me know all of your thoughts about the games down below. If you're new to this channel, then please be sure to subscribe. I'm definitely going to have some more Pokemon content in the future, so please be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on that. Click on that bell to become a part of the notification squad. Go follow me on Twitter at Aero so you can be featured in videos, and also join my Discord as well. We've got a bunch of nice people there who are always talking about Pokemon and Smash Bros and Nintendo, so definitely be sure to join that. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you so much for watching.